Another couple of ideas that employers can put into place to help attract and retain women. Women in leadership programs. Just throwing a budget and running a leadership event certainly is better than nothing. But sometimes what happens is the CEO will come in, make a 5-minute statement, and then leave. So women, again, feel that a budget has just been thrown at them. They're really not taken seriously. And especially if the CEO, with the best of intentions in mind, says, I'm so proud of all you gals, and I'm so happy to be here. And it's not that gals is such a horrible thing. Personally, I don't mind it so much, but a lot of women do. And the best of intentions backfire. So the second thing, which brings me to that, is to train and coach your executive team and managers on how to speak effectively with women and how to manage them, because there are some differences that have a huge impact on how happy they are on the job.
The worst thing employers could do to negatively affect how they attract female applicants is?
The worst thing employers could do to negatively affect the ability of attracting and retaining women is not walking their talk, is promising things that don't come through, giving lip service and then really not supporting flex time, women in leadership events, mentoring programs, just not being sincere.
I think any applicant would have problems with that. Are women particularly turned off by employers who don't do what they say they're going to do?
Yes. Women in particular are turned off by employers not walking their talk or not being sincere because they're tuned in to that relationship approach. They're tuned into integrity and honesty. If they, as I mentioned earlier, if they lose that trust, it's so hard to regain. Whereas men are like, it's part of the game, it's not that big of a deal. It's just a totally different approach to life and to business. So once they lose that trust, it's so hard to gain.
So coming from a relationship perspective, then the issue is if I'm trying to establish a relationship with you, and if you were untrustworthy, or if I can't count on you to do this small thing, then I certainly can't count on you to do something bigger.
Yes. If women will lose a trust even on a little small thing, because that will apply to everything. They'll start questioning whether they can trust on the big things. And that's probably another one of the worst things an employer can do, is not develop that relationship, not communicate a sense of community and support that women function most effectively and most productively in.
Does that suggest that it's important to train managers in particular to be sensitive to the idea of creating a trusting relationship with female applicants in particular? And
it's of particular importance to train managers and executives on how to communicate and manage women more effectively. The recruiters may be trained to do that. So women are coming in thinking, man, if this company and everybody there is like these recruiters who understand me and get me and respect me and are taking me seriously, then they walk in and a manager has no clue how to do that, may be a great manager in every other aspect and have the best of intentions, but just not have the skills, it's not going to work.
No, that was good. Let's try something else, because I think there's an element there that I think I want to emphasize and that you had said earlier, and that was the idea isn't just the training, and I probably steered you a little bit wrong with the tip I just gave you. It's more the idea that it's important to watch even the smallest parts of the relationship if they communicate trust. And maybe that's where maybe we can start with that as a comment. Because I think a manager might say, well, look, we worked together for 6 months and I was trustworthy in all these big things, but I didn't walk the talk on something small.
That's different, though.
Okay.
Do you want me to address that?
Well, let's stick with this point first, and then come. First, tell me how are they different?
Well, if the trust is already established, then the little things are forgiven.
Okay.
But the trust has got to be established first. So if in a recruiting situation, they're not so forgiven because the relationship has not been established. Or if they're first hired and right out of the chute, the manager or the boss erodes that trust or, says something that grates on them, then they're going to be watching everything else. But if the trust is established, the relationship is there, the community sense is there, she feels like she's taken seriously and supported, given the tools that she needs to do the job that she wants to do well and is totally capable of doing well, then the little infractions are forgiven. Because nobody expects perfection. Women don't expect perfection. But once that trust is there, then the little things aren't that big of a deal. One thing that I do want to communicate is I don't want to cause any fear or trepidation on the part of men or women with a masculine style when interviewing or managing women. These are subtleties. They're not going to be sitting there waiting to jump on something that's not said just perfectly. And it's really not the words that are chosen so much as how they're said and how they're presented in that inclusive, empathetic, relationship-oriented approach. So it's an overall approach, not so much specific words. It's subtleties. So don't be that worried about it. It's once you understand the differences, which I hope this is helping, it's not that different from just a humanistic, warm, considerate approach. That's a feminine approach. Some points I think that SHRM members would be really interested in hearing is literally what women want from their careers and what they're looking for. And to let them know, give them credibility as far as where this information comes from, I interviewed over 80 managers, recruiters, and female employees, both current and ones that have been terminated, either their choice or theirs employers. And these were in-depth, 30-minute interviews, along with all the rest of my expertise in gender issues and communication, and came up with the list. And here it is in order of what women want. They want flexibility and independence. So important. And people ask me, why are women leaving in droves? That's number one. Why they're starting their own companies, so they can have that flexibility. Number two, they want to get fulfillment from making a difference. So you've got to make that connection between their job and how it makes a positive difference in the world. Number three, they want to work where they're cared about and supported and appreciated. Number four, they want equal pay for equal work. Number five, they want to be taken seriously. They want to be respected and counted on and depended on. They want a genuine opportunity to be promoted. They want to be able to see their way ahead and to have it be real. And that's why one of the things that I always recommend is for a company to put more assistant management positions into play so there's more room for people to be promoted. They also want to be treated fairly and equally. And equally doesn't necessarily mean the same. We're all different people, men and women, but we're all equal. So we need to treat people in a way that makes sense to them and has relevance to them. And they want to work for ethical companies that walk their talk and want to make a difference in the world. Speak to the security that women need. Men often ask me, because I do programs on gender communication as well in the workplace, and men say, well, what's the secret to women? How do we really understand them? It's that one word, security. If you provide them, it's like, because they say, well, I told you yesterday I love you. Why do I have to tell you again today? Because they need that emotional security reinforced over and over and over. And the emotional security comes through acknowledging good work, giving them that sense of community, making sure that they know they're supported and cared about. Or it's physical security. Do they have what they need on the job? Do they have the maternity benefits? Do they have the health benefits that they need? Do they feel safe going to the parking lot at dark? Do they feel comfortable with the men that they're working field? Do they feel safe with them? And the financial security. Are they going to get the money that they need? They either have to get them through their own job, or through the partnership with their spouses. In the last couple of years, genetic scientists have determined that genetically, this is DNA, this is deep, 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 men and women differ from each other almost as much as humans differ from chimpanzees. We are almost as different from each other. We're almost different species, and we wonder why we can't communicate effectively? Good grief. And just being aware of what these differences are isn't enough. You've got to understand what the strategies are, what the skills are, and how to put them into action.